I'm Becky Brower, and I'm a Sendy mom. Welcome to the Sendy Mom Podcast. Welcome to the Sendy Mom Podcast. I am really excited to be here with my very good friend, Stephanie Wilson. We met each other, oh my gosh, probably 7 years ago or something like that on the mountain bike team.
Yes.
And we have a mutual friend who invited us to go to Lake Powell with their family. And so we were able to experience that. So Wilsons have a boat and they spend a lot of time on the road, I think, or probably not as much time as you want to, but but it happens.
Right. Yeah.
Stephanie's also a fitness instructor. Where do you work right now?
I work at two different places. I work at Mountain West Pilates.
Okay.
Where they have reformer Pilates there, and then they also have the fitness side, more strength and yoga, bar classes, and I teach all those: strength, yoga, bar. And then I also work for Vasa, and for them I teach yoga classes and I teach HIIT style classes.
Yep. And Stephanie is up every morning at
every morning by 5. Tuesdays and Thursdays by 4:20.
Yeah. Okay. So, and we'll get into that. We'll talk about that. But yeah, she's very productive. We'll say that. Extremely productive. And we were just talking about
an early riser.
A big job that they're doing at their house that maybe we'll get into in a little bit too.
Yeah, maybe.
So, and let's see. And also Stephanie is a life coach, and she specializes in young adults and especially girls, right?
Yeah. I coach. I actually coach all ages. I've had some teenagers reach out to me recently. So still in high school. I love the young adult women, the ones, maybe 20, 21, 22, they're returning from their missions oftentimes. And then actually, I just recently had a couple of women reach out to me as well. And so I just realized, yes, I the young adults, but one of my new clients is a woman that I'm like, this is going to be amazing. So I'm actually quite excited about all the people that I get to work with.
Well, and Stephanie's coached me a few times.
Yeah.
And I can attest, I'll give her endorsements because she's amazing.
Thank you.
Honestly, life-changing. No, really. I think about
actually why I did it, because it was life-changing for me as well.
Yeah.
Helped me to see, I can create even more and have an even better life, even though I already had an amazing life.
Well, and that's really the point, right? Because I've always felt like I don't really need to see anybody. I mean, I've got a good life. I know I do, but I just know that there's something better, I could have it just a little bit better. And so that's where a life coach is super helpful. I mean, people do need therapy. We need therapists because there are definitely mental illnesses that need to have a trained professional to be able to look at them. I mean, not always, but and not always can they help, I guess. But it's important to have that. But a life coach is really helpful for most of us who just have, a few little things that we're trying to work on and make our life just a little bit better. So,
yeah. The way it helped me too is it just helped me to have the courage to show up as the person that's inside my head and not always push her down. And so that's why I've learned that I actually do enjoy coaching all ages, because even we as women, as peers, we have that person inside our head, and it's like, well, why can't I show up as her? Why am I too afraid to be her? Why didn't I say the thing I wanted to say? And it taught me it's okay to be that person sometimes. We don't always have to push that person away, but also it taught me really well to hold a place for everyone else and let that person show up as themselves also. And find out what I could learn from them, see in them, try to figure out, where might that person be coming from? It just really helped me in all aspects of my life, my testimony of my religion, my marriage, as a mother with my children, even as a fitness instructor, it was crazy how I never would have guessed it would have affected every area of my life.
It's interesting. So did you feel like you were repressing your own person?
Because you know,
or not being that because you were afraid of what other people would think of.
Yeah. But that is interesting. I like that word that you used, repressing. More being able to still show up, even if I thought someone wouldn't like what I had to say, what came out of my mouth. Probably more, maybe you would have more classified me as a people pleaser, maybe a little more.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Someone who, I'll just say this so that person will go away, you know?
Right. Yes. Okay. I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. And I'm not as much her anymore. It's like, okay, if really I'm comfortable with that option and I like having the answer, but I found that it's okay. It can be safe to say what's inside my head too.
Right.
And I prefer being honest anyway.
Oh yeah, for sure. And actually I was thinking about it this morning. It's so much better if you could admit your mistakes. Like I feel so much more confident if I admit what I don't know and ask for help for it. You know?
Yeah. No, I love that.
Rather than just like trying to present myself always at all times as if I know what's going on. I'm okay, whatever. If I can just come back and say like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I feel more confident. So yeah.
What was it? I'm curious. What was it that made you realize that recently?
Okay. Actually, no, I have. So last night I went to a scuba diving class because I'm getting scuba certified.
Yeah.
As part of, this was the first challenge I was given on this podcast with my very first interview, Miriam Wood, who is now passed away.
Yes.
So, and miss her terribly, but her suggestion to me was to go get scuba certified. So my husband and we started last week. And so last night we were at class and, the instructor, I don't know how to scuba dive and it's kind of scary, right?
For sure.
And so every time we have to do this ascend thing, I really struggle with like ascending slow enough. And it scares me because they tell you about like all the horrible things that can happen if you go up too fast because your lungs are going to expand like a balloon and then you'll explode basically or get decompression sickness, which is then you have to spend 6 hours in a decompression chamber and whatever. So I get really stressed about it. And so as I was coming up, I got up to the top and then he's trying to tell me some things that, about it. And instead of saying like, I know, I did I did this wrong or whatever, I was like, okay, so I need to do this. It just made it so I could learn a lot more quickly because I was willing to, say like, I didn't know this and I did it wrong. And I'm now tuned into you. So I know what to do the next time this happens so that I'm not going to have problems with it. So because I was scared. And so when you become afraid of something, I think you get defensive and you want to know what it is. But instead I chose to be humble and teachable and like, this scared me and accept the fear a little bit.
Actually, I love that you just said that. It teaches you to be humble and teachable because that's what I realized. I thought I was fairly humble, fairly teachable, and not saying that I am now, but I have learned how to see where I could be more humble and more teachable. And it takes a lot of courage to be able to say, oh, wait, I realize you're teaching me. You said you even kind of focused and zoned in and tuned into exactly what he was saying rather than just
saying, I know.
Out. Plus, he knows how to keep you safe.
Exactly. That's his job.
Yeah.
So, well, we kind of went backwards. And so I want to first have you introduce kind of where you came from.
Okay.
I always like to know like your family of origin, because that tells a lot about you.
Okay.
And then we'll get into kind of the family that you're raising now.
Okay, great. I am the third child of 11.
Okay.
I have 10 siblings. All of us are from the same mom, same dad. I'm the oldest daughter. I have 6 brothers, 4 sisters. So there are 5 girls, 6 boys. Of the 6 boys, there are still 4 living. So it's actually my 2 brothers, the brother right above me and the brother just below me. My brother above me died. He drowned when he was 3 and I was an infant. I was 8 months old. Mm-hmm. And then my brother just below me died during COVID. Not of COVID. He was an alcoholic most of his life and ended up passing away on drugs. So
what a shame.
OD'd on drugs.
Do any of your other siblings have issues with substance abuse or anything like that, or did you ever have?
No, not really. Mm-hmm. I would say all of us have a fighting attitude inside of us. And so I would say maybe it comes out in different ways in each one of us.
Sure.
So for
fighting, explain that a little bit.
Like I will fight for what I want. What I realize, it's kind of the can do attitude.
Okay.
Like I can do that. I can do this. I can figure this out. I can. And so I guess that's what I mean, by that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you say like, no one's going to tell me I can't do this. As a matter of fact, interestingly enough, I had a life coach tell me I would not be able to accomplish something without continuing with her. And that flared me up inside. And I was like, oh, you just watch.
Yeah.
Like, don't you dare tell me I can't do something.
Absolutely. And this is what makes Stephanie Wilson a Cindy mom.
Yeah, that I was, and for me, when I coach people, that's not the attitude I take. I prefer to help them find within themselves. I fully believe in people, fully. Mm-hmm. I actually have realized, I think that's maybe a God-given gift that I can see in others, all their potential.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, I know you can do this with or without me. I think I can help you. I can help you. I won't just be your friend. I'm going to help you. We're going to get inside your head. We're going to figure out why you're showing up the way you want to show up. And if you want change, let's change it. But if you don't, be who you are, because you're amazing as you are.
Right.
And I think we get that because of Jesus Christ personally.
Yeah.
And that we are all absolutely amazing people. And then we get to choose. Do I want to fight for that, and kind of like I said at the very beginning, already a great life, already everything's fantastic. Do I want to turn it up a notch?
Yeah. So how do you do that?
How do I turn it up a notch?
Well, tell me your journey a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, maybe let's go ahead and go back and go to like your high school experience.
Okay.
What was high school like for you? Were there some successes or failures or perceived failures, I guess?
Okay.
Things that you did that taught you some resilience and courage.
I would say, let's see. So one thing that comes to my mind when I was in high school, actually, interestingly enough, this was right when I was in high school, my dad lost his job. He went into foreclosure. So already I was from a family, 10 siblings. At the time there were 9 of us, so there were 10 of us children, including myself. So I had 9 siblings alive. Was raised with most of the 9, and
what's the spread between the oldest and
my
youngest?
oldest brother? So I was 18. I was a senior in high school when my youngest sister was born.
Okay.
And my oldest brother is 4 years older, so 22 years.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Between the 11. And my dad lost his job. He was a mortician. Oh. So yeah, I was raised in a mortuary. Have you seen that movie, My Girl? It's many years old now.
Yeah, that's right. I haven't seen that for a while.
So it wasn't exactly like that.
Okay.
But it was one house. There was the mortuary, and then to the side there were 2 apartments. And we were such a big family. When my dad purchased the mortuary with these 2 apartments on the side, his family lived on the side, and there were so many of us that we knocked out a wall, and we lived in the whole side of the mortuary. So
wow, that would be kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's a whole other life story. I've got some good stories with that. So I was raised in a mortuary. Yeah, for a good portion of my life, and then some business things happened to my parents, and my parents declared bankruptcy. We had a decent life, when you're paying for 10 children.
Yeah,
things are expensive, but we had everything we needed, and then we didn't. Okay. And we lost our home. My parents started driving ugly vehicles. Yeah. Up until that point, I had been a cheerleader in high school. Yeah. And my senior year, I didn't try out for cheerleading. We didn't have money. I've worked ever since I can remember, since about when I was 12. Okay. I used to work for my dad. And then he would, maybe this is where early mornings came from, because we would get up and help him prepare breakfasts for the Rotary Club. Oh. And it was a privilege to get to go with Dad to go do that. It was
harder.
Yeah, it was. So that was huge. In high school, you don't want to look like you're poor, even if you are. You know, you hear stories of people hiding that. In high school, you want to seem like you have it all. Yeah. No one wants to admit they don't know something. Sure. And so that was an interesting growing time for me, from my junior to senior year. No longer trying out to be a cheerleader, which was part of my identity at that time. Right. I was outgoing. I've always been outgoing. I've always talked to people I don't know. That's a learned thing, I believe, from my father as well. And so that kind of started shaping my mind and helping me realize, it helped me not to care quite as much about possessions. I love my possessions. I'm a shoe girl for sure. I love shoes. That's funny. It brought me back a little to, what do I really need right now?
What are the important things? What are my priorities?
For me at that time.
Okay.
So, like this.
The thing our kids don't understand sometimes is that this will pass.
Right.
So when you're in high school, you are so laser focused on your relationships that you're having right now, and on the teachers, and high school is everything. And, and I remember having to tell my oldest son, because he had a tough time when we were in Australia, it was hard for him to find friends. And I remember telling him, just hold on, it's going to get better. You're going to graduate, you're going to go to college, and it's going to be so awesome. And then, or not totally awesome, but it's going to be awesomer. And then I love that. And then you're going to find this amazing woman to get married to, and it's going to be so much better. And then you're going to have these incredible kids, and it's going to be so much better. So not that we're always looking like, oh, it's so horrible now, but it's going to get better. I think I think we need to instill in our children hope. When they're in their darkest hours, we can have good now. And that's what we're striving for. We want to be able to feel good right now. But part of that is understanding that in the future, it's going to get even better. Yeah. No, and that's exactly what happened, because now he's married and has 2.5 children, and he's never been happier, in his life. So it makes me really happy. But anyway,
our mothers knew it.
Yeah, it's true. That's right. And I think that hope is an important ingredient in helping our children to get through some of the hard things they've got to go through, especially as teenagers.
I know. That's actually, so that is exactly why I do like I said, that's ultimately what I think I've realized I do. I just help people really see that in themselves.
Yes.
That I have what it takes to get through. And that I'm amazing as I am right now. And how can I make myself, well, I loved how you said even awesomer. I love that. I was like, yes, because we are awesome.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
But we can be awesomer. Yeah. Because for those who believe in God or those who believe in Jesus Christ, that's exactly what he teaches us.
Yeah.
I mean, he teaches us to aspire for something awesomer.
Yes.
And so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. With just like you said, we can look forward to that day, and it doesn't, just looking forward to that day doesn't take away from still appreciating and enjoying what we're experiencing right now, though, too. Yeah. And what we can learn from this, and then applying that.
Yeah. I was just watching a little reel last night with Chris Pratt.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
I do. I like him.
He's so funny.
He is really funny.
Yeah.
But he was talking about the 9 things to always remember. And one of them was there's nobody that's perfect. People will say you're perfect the way you are. You're not.
Right.
You know, we are all trying to get better. And so if you can look at other people as imperfect and look at yourself as imperfect, you're going to be able to make a lot more progress that way.
Yeah.
So
when it comforts us, the reason that we like to realize that not everyone is perfect is it gives us that internal motivation to say, okay, then I can do it too.
Right.
So not to take the subject back to me, but I guess we are interviewing
yes, it's about
me.
You.
So as a fitness instructor, I also really like fitness. And I've worked out since a teenager. I've worked out for years of my life. And that's an area that I do really like, challenging myself in strength. And where I can, you know, the year I turned 50, I love doing push-ups on my toes. And so I set a goal for myself to be able to do 50 consecutive push-ups on my toes, which women don't do. Women drop to their knees. And that's where I kind of take a stand. I'm like, women, we are strong. You can do them on your toes. You can do one on your toes. Do one. I don't care if your elbow moves a millimeter. I don't care how low you get to the ground. You start on your toes and then you drop to your knees. So many people teach, start on your knees and then you'll get stronger and then you can work up to your toes. Yeah. It's like BS.
Start with the hardest stuff first.
Yeah. Well, just push yourself first.
Okay.
It's push yourself first. Because when you start on your toes, that's what you already can do.
Right. Okay.
So how are you growing from what you can already do?
Right. Okay.
So you grow when you try the things you can't do. When I turned 50, I did 50 push-ups on my toes. I took a video. Yay. Full-fledged push-ups. They are not little mini wimpy.
Yeah, all the way down to the ground.
Elbows at 90.
At 90. Okay.
Yes. Elbows at 90 on my toe, full body, a full plank, bend elbow, extend, 50 times consecutively, not stopping. Okay. And I stopped when I got to 50. I was like, woohoo!
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, when I stopped, I was like, I could have done more. I don't know if it was one more. I don't know how many more. So then last year when I turned 51, I'm like, I'm doing it again. And I said, except this year, I'm not stopping.
I'm just going to go as many as I can.
Yeah, as many as I can. And so I did it. And I got to 51. And then I got to, I think it was 53. Okay. So I think I did 2 more. And then I had to pause. I had to stop.
Okay.
And so for me, it's not stopping.
Okay.
Like pausing, as soon as I took a break, it's like, okay, I can bust out another 20 now.
Right.
But I wanted to be able to do it without stopping.
Got it.
And so I did the 53 without stopping. And now this year, I don't know, we'll see. And I had to train. I trained myself. I was doing a lot of push-ups leading up to it. Consecutive push-ups.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I'm like, as a fitness instructor, as a life coach, all these things that I've implemented in my life, I'm like, I do not expect you to do something that I won't do myself.
I see.
I imagine there's going to come a day where, I can't do something that I want someone else to try. But I'm like, no, I will do it first. I will also say as a fitness instructor, something that drives me crazy is to see someone who will ask me to do something that they cannot do themselves.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't you tell me to do something that you won't try yourself.
Yeah.
That makes that again lights the fire inside of me.
Need to have some authenticity with.
Yeah,
you know,
I think that's more what it is. It's more like, I know you can do it
because I've done it.
Yeah, well, and not even just a reflection back on me. It's just like, look, we're capable. We're, as humans, we are capable of more.
But then, of course, there are times when you've probably been injured and you know that you shouldn't be doing, but you know that they can, right?
Oh yeah, barring injury. But, you know, people will use, though, even still, an injury as an excuse. My husband, for example, has a torn ACL. He's supposed to have surgery. A lot of my sending mom, I attribute to my husband too. I definitely attribute it to my growing up years, and I attribute it to marrying a husband who's also a fighter, who's got the can-do attitude.
Yeah.
His favorite slogan is Wilson's can do hard things, and he lives by that.
Yeah.
And he does not, and he's out chopping down trees, and he's out working hard every day.
Yeah.
And we, you know, people that know us know that we speak our minds, and we both have type A personalities, if you want to put us in a box, you know, but it's actually so fun. We actually have such a great relationship though too. And I think it helps us bring out so many good sides. Yeah.
So how have you managed that, having, you know, a husband who's very similar to you, being kind of outspoken, maybe not outspoken. I feel like you do a really good job, and you have a really warm relationship.
Thank you.
But you're able to, you know, feel, I guess maybe, is it communication? Do you just communicate really well?
Yeah, we communicate better than others. I actually, that was one thing that life coaching helped me get better at. Okay. Brad has always been a really good communicator. I used to be more like, just get quiet. Yeah. You know, almost like silent treatment.
Okay.
It's just, I would just work things out in my head. So that's why, like I said earlier, to be able to have that courage to, I still will say, okay, give me a minute. Let me work this out. Maybe I'm not ready. But it's like, no, it's okay. He's on my team.
Right.
We're husband and wife, you know, and it's so much better. He's not the enemy. Right. You know, we're a companionship. And so it's like, give me a second. Let me work through it in my mind. Okay, here's how we can work through this, you know, together.
This is what I'm going to say without the emotion that I'm feeling right now. But
still emotion. Still emotion. Definitely there's still emotion. But
being able to say it clear-headedly.
Being able to say it. Just even being able to say it is huge.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
I'm a little bit like that too.
Yeah.
just clam up. And because, well, even like, okay, here's an example. Just this morning when we were having, we were doing our scripture study. And,
I love examples.
And I was trying to tell a story of something that I had heard, to kind of explain how, you know, we should be welcoming to people who want to come to church or something like that. And I look over at Aaron, and he's just staring blankly. And I was like, did you hear anything I said? And I was very offended, because I was like, how do you feel? Like if you're telling this whole story and the person is not even listening to you, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was a little upset. And so I kind of, you know, came off a little bit more upset than I really wanted to, right. You know? And so, and then I calmed down, but at the same time, then, you know, of course, Robert is trying to get me to calm down. Wyatt's saying things to try to calm me down and everything. So I did. And I said nothing the rest of the time.
You're like, well, I'll show you. Fine. If you won't listen to me and you think what I have to say isn't important, then I'll say nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on in your head.
Yeah.
So I will tell you, Becky, what I've learned is that's a disservice.
Yeah.
Still show up as the person who tells stories. Yeah. Because even if Aaron maybe is looking like he's not listening, and maybe he didn't catch part of it, he wanted to be interviewed by his mom.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing I thought later. I was like, he showed up.
Yeah.
It was early for him, you know, he was still tired and but he was there, you know, and he wanted to be there. And I was grateful for that. And so that's how I was able to kind of spin that was like, I need to just be grateful instead of, you know, offended.
Yeah. Yeah. And we all get offended. I get offended all the time. But it's when we get offended, it's because we're in our own head. And someone didn't act a way that we pre-prescribed that they should act.
Exactly.
And who's to say that we're right?
Yeah.
You know, maybe they were acting the way that they need in that moment. Like, who knows what was going on in his head in that moment? Maybe he had read a verse of scripture and he was processing that. Or maybe he thought of why, you know, wait, mom's saying, okay, let's welcome people that come. Oh, was there someone that I didn't welcome? Like his mind could have still been on the subject, but just not on your personal story.
Wasn't. He was just tired, but but that's okay too.
Yeah.
You know, either way. Oh, we're about halfway through the podcast. I want to remind you that this podcast is also on our YouTube channel at Sendy Mom. You can find our website at sendymom.com and on Instagram at sendy.mom. Please subscribe, review, and share this episode with people you think might need this message. In addition, if you subscribe on sendymom.com, you will receive all of the information about events that are coming up, as well as when I publish new episodes. Sendy Spotlight this coming week will be on Eleanor Roosevelt. She was married to President Franklin Roosevelt. She began as a shy, reserved young woman and became one of the most influential voices of the 20th century. She wasn't just the wife of a president, she was a powerful advocate for education, civil rights, women's voices, and human dignity around the world. In this Sendy Spotlight, you're going to hear how she stepped out of the shadows to redefine the role of First Lady, helped shape the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and used her influence to lift others, especially the forgotten and overlooked. Her story is a powerful reminder that courage doesn't always look loud at first, and that using your voice, even when it shakes, can change the world. I hope her quote at the end of every episode inspires you to try things that are hard and might be a little scary. All right, you will love my next guest. So Rachel Miner runs Bellwether International. I was introduced to her by my friend, Deborah Fletcher, who was also on the podcast last year. Rachel has a really amazing story. You need to find out how she is eradicating genocide in some of the toughest nations in the world. Yes, you heard me right, eradicating genocide. Bellwether is a unique non-government organization that works with governments of nations at risk for genocide. But they also work with people, teaching them ways to love, forgive, and live with each other in peace and do away with hatred. You will truly be inspired by her fighter attitude and drive. If you are interested in being featured on an episode of Sendy Mom or know somebody who would, please let me know by reaching out on email, direct message, or through my website. Everyone has a story of triumph. We are all heroes in part of our story. I want to bring out your hero. I want you to see that you truly can be Sendy. Enjoy the rest of my conversation with Stephanie. She is truly one Sendy mom. But those are really good thoughts. And one of the things that I feel like, and we're going to come back to how you got into coaching, because I really want to hear that story too.
Great.
But
I love it.
But that is one thing that you have really helped me with when we're talking about a friend and how, I was trying to process, like, I was feeling bad about something that she had said. And you said, what if you just looked at everybody like they're a book? And all the things that they tell you is like information about them. And so you can find out, well, this is really important to this person, but it doesn't mean it has to be important to you. And that was really eye-opening to me, because I generally take what people say and I think, oh, yes, I need to integrate that into my own life. But there becomes this really hard fight with that, because this cognitive dissonance, I guess, because it's not really what I believe, but because they believe it, maybe I should believe it too. And so being able to look at it from that perspective and say like, oh, this person is just telling me how they are. They're not saying I need to be like them. And I can take some of these things and say, I really like that about that person. And I want to try to be a little bit better about this or whatever it is. But it doesn't mean that I have to feel bad when I don't do what that person does or what they expect of me.
Right. And the cool thing is when we are in the state of mind, which I slip in and out of it all the time. It's, but when we are in that state of mind, that is actually where we grow. Mm-hmm. So you grew from realizing, oh, okay, I can look at this differently or critically, and it helps you improve as a person. Just like you said, you're like, oh, I'm going to take that, but it doesn't from that individual, but it doesn't mean that I have to be exactly like them.
No.
And it really is, it provides that place of love.
Yeah.
Of the true, I can love you as you are. And that's why I said too earlier, I firmly believe everything turns back to our Savior and the gospel. Mm-hmm. And that is what the Savior did. That really is. How did he, what is charity? What is love? He did accept a person for who they were.
Right.
And then when they asked him, he taught them.
Right.
But if you look in the scriptures, a lot of his teaching comes because they asked him.
Right.
And so my guess is that's because he knew they were ready to hear what he had to teach.
Yeah, we can kind of segue to that for just a minute too, because you cannot teach a child if they don't have a desire to learn.
Yeah. Or any of us.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
We're just big children is all we are.
And that is absolutely true, but when you're ready to learn,
right,
the teacher's going to come. You're going to have the experiences that you need to have. But I'm thinking particularly with children, it is really difficult to force them into something that they are not wanting, even if it's, it's so good for them if they do this or that or whatever. If you try to force them into it, you're going to just be pushing them away.
Well, the more I coach, the more I realize, there's cliches are cliches for a reason.
Yeah.
There is truth in them. Yeah. For instance, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't get them to drink, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's and why, maybe sometimes too, it's good to question ourselves. Why are you trying to force this child to learn something?
Right.
Why are you trying it? Like you said, even though it's good for them, the horse, that they need water, right?
When it's ready, then it'll drink, right? And even babies, I remember my babies thinking, "You're so tired," they're crying and crying and crying. And all you need is just to sleep. You just need to sleep. If you'll just fall asleep, you're going to be totally fine,
Yeah.
But they just want to cry and cry and cry because they don't realize. But then eventually they fall asleep, right?
Yeah.
And they figure that out. And it continues, throughout our lives, right? We're learning this lesson of when the desire is there, then you have the power.
Yeah.
But you have to have the desire before you can get the power.
Yeah. So that is the power statement. And that's what you have, that desire to learn. And and when you realize you're learning from something, that's why when you and I spoke, that's why it was so powerful to you, because as soon as you realized, oh, I'm offended because I actually want it, when you brought it back to you and you're like, I want to learn from this.
Yes.
Then you felt powerful again.
Yes.
But when it was like, oh, this person's telling me how to be and I'm not right and I'm not perfect, I'm imperfect.
Yeah.
But when you were like, no, I'm just a learner and I like to take from people what I want to put into my life. That's when we move forward. That's when we have the power. And that is a beautiful place to be. And when we can be side by side with someone and let them find their power and I find mine, that is when people,
synergy.
Yeah, synergy. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Love that word. Love that.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, okay. So what about with your own children when they are going through these things that you see are so hard and they don't have the desire to change?
Right.
What do you do?
Right. It's true. That is such a good question because I do think about that, right? Yeah. I've built a business around helping people change. Honestly, the magic really is in exactly what you said. They don't want to. It really, and when you said you can't teach a child if they don't want to learn.
Yeah.
And it's true.
But maybe do you have to get them around to a place where they want to learn? Is there a way to get them to a place where they want to?
Well, if we think we're doing it that way, though, that's also manipulative.
Yeah, that's controlling.
Right? You can't do that. Everyone's like, well, they're manipulative. It's like, well, guess what? If you're trying to make someone be the person you think they should be, you're manipulative too.
Exactly. I know.
Surprise.
So it really comes back to just loving them where they are. Right?
Yeah, so that's where I feel like my mom was a good example of that.
Okay.
She really, all my life, she has loved all of us right where we are. All of us. Yeah. She's had a lot. My mother is one of my idols. Yeah. She had, at 25 years old, had a baby, a child die. Yeah. She lost her son during COVID through drugs. Yeah. She had a husband lose his job. She had to figure out how to live off of little to no money. She went back to work. She worked graveyards and went to college. My dad got sick. My dad ended up dying at a young age. People who are my age will think it's young. Young teenagers won't think this is young, but my dad died when he was 60.
Yeah, that is young.
And that was young. Her father committed suicide.
Wow.
She has seen a lot in her life, and yet she still triumphs and she still loves people. And so I'm grateful for both sides, that my mom taught me the love and my dad taught me the fight.
Okay. So why do you think that, what do you think was the secret for your mom to be so resilient, to be able to bounce back and not sink down into some kind of depression and to continue to give
she kind
out?
of sometimes did.
Okay.
She did. When my dad died, she still had 3 children at home. And those siblings had different life experiences from what I had.
Yeah.
But she did. We have to, if there's something, it's okay to have emotion. Yeah. Like earlier you said, take the emotion out of it when I, maybe if Brad and I get in a conversation, we get plenty heated.
Okay. Yeah.
It's just some people though, they take that as, don't do that. You're you're fighting or something like that. It's like, actually, this is even love a person where they're at. It's like, we work through things a little differently.
Yeah.
We've got a great relationship. I love my husband. My husband loves me. We're faithful to each other. And yet we will both speak our mind to each other.
Yeah.
And I think, and initially you asked me with a child, how do we do this with a child?
Right.
And I'm learning still. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm definitely learning. I have my own children who do things. I just say some of my kids like to learn by touch. Yeah. Some of them learn by listening, but it's just like us. We really are just big children. And it does help to have the perspective of they're going through it too.
Well, and not only that, but we're not finished yet.
Oh, love that.
We're still
not finished yet.
We're still, all of us are, but particularly those young adults, we get so concerned about the decisions they're making because this is going to impact the rest of their life. If they decide not to go to college or if they decide, to take this profession or whatever, and we think their life is going to be over, but it's not. Like there is always room to change. My brother got a degree or went back to PA school when he was 42. and he's a PA now and is providing for his family. And that's
incredible.
I mean, it was hard. I think it was really hard.
He's probably so proud of himself though.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm proud of him too. I love my brother so much, but and I'm really, and I think that, we get into this mindset where we're so focused on these children, especially the oldest child. It's the oldest child that has to take a lot of the brunt of that, the parents' aspirations, right?
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
And so, as we are projecting the things that we are hoping for them, we have to go through a little bit of grief of loss of those expectations. And so you go through that whole grieving process of losing that, that dream. But that's okay, because guess what? They're not done, and they're going to make progress in their own way. And we get to be along for the ride as long as we don't distance them because of the choices that they made when they were 18 years old.
Yeah.
Right?
It's interesting too. You said, I'm not finished yet.
Uh-huh.
That was interesting. That brought a thought to my mind too, of when Christ was on the cross.
Yeah.
And he said, it is finished. And then that's when it ended.
Right. Yeah.
And
we can never say that, though.
So
he's the only one that can actually say that.
Yeah.
His part of
I love that. I'm not finished yet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so if we remember that for our own children and and actually what I found for their spouses too, the people that they're going to marry or whatever, sometimes, you have this ideal person for your child,
right,
and you're never going to find it. Number one, it's not your person, right? But also they're not finished yet. And so you may see things in this potential, spouse or whatever that you're really worried about. And these are red flags, whatever. I would much prefer, rather than thinking about things being red flags, is thinking, we're going to work through this like we are anything else. And we are going to love this person so much, because everybody changes throughout their lives, and you can be an influence for good or for evil for anyone.
Well, and and even so, as I have met with people older than me too, I've realized, so again, that phrase, I'm not finished yet, that is exactly, I feel like everyone wants to be a contributor.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yes.
Everyone I meet wants to know that, mm-hmm. And a person 77 years old, 87 years old, 97 years old, mm-hmm. they're still like, I'm not finished. No, I still have value. I still have something to give.
Yeah.
And they do. And it's so fascinating to see how people discover that. Some people will mentor, some people will work on projects with people.
We all need something to keep us vitalized and to feel like we are valid. So that's part of the reason why I do this podcast too, is because I feel like it gives people ideas. Things that they can continue to do in their life as they reach a as you reach a crossroads, your youngest child is starting school, or your youngest child is leaving the house, or you are having a child who's starting school, and your dynamic is going to change, right? So, okay, what do I do at this crossroads? And then you have we can give ideas about how to go about
that. So with the thought of crossroads, I was thinking about that.
Okay.
And when I came, and I happened to be thinking about it coming to a 4-way stop.
Okay.
And so I came to this 4-way stop, and I was like, oh, I'm at a crossroad here. But interestingly enough, a crossroad doesn't have to be a 3-way stop.
Right.
A crossroad can be the 4-way stop. And I realized, well, I could go left, I could go right, but I actually could go straight forward too.
Uh-huh.
And I've got a couple of clients, life coach clients that I've met with, and they're like, oh, should I just totally even change? Like, look at you. I got my bachelor's degree in accounting, and I teach fitness. I life coach, like I do. And they're like, look at you. I want to do something. I want to find something. And which is great. It's phenomenal, right? We can do that when we can find those things. But it's also okay to say, I like the path I'm on too.
Yeah.
And at this crossroads, I choose to simply cross the road.
Yes.
And go across.
Yeah. Well, which is also a feat sometimes too. It might be a muddy road, And
Yeah.
so, but
Ooh,
to
that's a
make
great
that,
visual.
make that choice to go through that mud and then continue forward, you're actually maybe going to get onto a better forward road after being through the mud. So
yeah, I love that.
There you go. I love analogies.
So do I.
Okay, we're getting close to being out of time, but let me ask you. I do want to hear your journey towards being a life coach. Can you share like why and how that kind of came to be, and how you were before and how you are now, like how the changes you've seen.
Okay. How it came to be, I have a dear friend that's a dermatologist, and she told me one time I was just talking to her, and she said, "Have you heard of life coaching?" She had gotten into it and was listening to podcasts and found Jody Moore. A lot of women in the LDS world know who she is. Mm-hmm. And I said, "No, I've never even heard of this. What is this?" Mm-hmm. And, looking back on it now, I see, my friend saw that I could use.
She needed it. And we all do.
I'm so grateful that she did that and just let me know. So she told me what it was. I started listening. As a matter of fact, when I first started hearing it, and I even listened to Jody Moore, I went to one of her conferences back when she used to come to Utah once a year. And I went to one of them and I was like, okay, I really like what she has to say, but I don't know if I agree with all of that.
Right.
Because what life coaching teaches you is how much power you have in your own hands to change your own life.
Right.
And there were a couple of things. I remember there was a woman where this woman's like, "We have a dog and I don't want a dog. We only have the dog because my husband said we need a dog, but I don't want a dog. It's my husband's fault." Uh-huh. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. That woman doesn't want a dog. I was siding with the woman. Uh-huh. And Jody Moore's like, "No, you wanted the dog." Yeah. And I'm like, "No, she didn't. What are you saying?"
She didn't want the dog.
And as I've learned and grown more and explored this more, I realized, if we're not saying, like, either having that discussion, or just saying honestly, I don't want a dog.
Right. Yeah.
And I thought that is interesting because we think, if I just don't say anything. I actually coached someone the other day and she was like, "My husband turns to me and says, 'Where do you want to eat tonight?' And she'll say, 'I don't know.' And she's like, 'But then we keep going to all his the same restaurants.'"
Well, yeah.
And I was like, "Well, have you ever just answered him? He's just asking you a question."
Right.
But the only reason I could help her and learn to say that is because I used to be her.
Yeah.
I was I don't know, thinking, I'm a peacemaker.
Yes.
Life is so great. I'm awesome.
Yes.
Uh-huh. And I realized, wait a minute. Anyway, back to your original question. So my friend, she just taught me about this. I listened to it. I started listening to it more. It really resonated with me. I realized, I have a lot of things I need to change in my life, and kind of people will sometimes, what's the word that they say now? Passive aggressive.
Okay.
I think I used to have a lot more passive aggressive in me.
Uh-huh.
And then some people are just aggressive, or some people are just passive, right?
Right.
But I learned, there is a way to find that passive aggressive and yet still show up, but still show up as me, not just thinking, I'm so great, I'm a peacemaker, I'm just not going to answer, or I don't know. And it's okay to say a place, and so it, like I said, it just helped me reflect a little more and realize, wow, I do have a lot of learning and growing still to do. Just like you said, I'm not finished yet.
Yeah.
And when I improved and when I saw my relationship with my husband improve and get better and be able to love him more and love him where he's at and love my kids where they're at and love me where I'm at.
Yeah.
And my clients, and even my fitness clients, and be like, "You're amazing where you are," and that was so powerful for me. It was just like, shattered my mind thinking, oh my gosh, this exists.
Right.
And so then I just decided to learn more about it, to go through the life coach school training, to even amidst not everyone agreed with me.
Yeah.
And but would say, but you know, you do what you want. Well, when those words, you do what you want, come out of your mouth, you gotta stand behind it.
Yeah.
And so I did what I wanted. Yeah. And I chose to go do it.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I love it. I love being able to show up in a place and to have learned how to let a person be who they are, and let me be who I am. And then if we want to change or if we want to grow from it, great. But if we don't, that's okay too, because life still is actually functioning pretty dang well.
Yeah. How have you raised your children to be more resilient and courageous, to be able to go on a mission, you know, and to go through hard things and bounce back?
So that's interesting, being that when we're recording this right now, it's close to Mother's Day. Mother's Day just passed. And so I received notes from my children, or they told me, you know, Mom, I'm so grateful for this. I'm so grateful for that. And I've learned that they have mostly learned by the example that my husband and I give. And so I think maybe even sometimes unbeknownst to me, it was interesting to see some of the notes, some of the things they said to me that they admire in me and that they've watched in me. It's more just my daily habits.
Like what? What are some of your daily habits, I guess?
My daily habits.
Get up at
waking up far too early in the morning, right? But all of my good friends know, though, that also comes with me passing out at night. You know? I don't stay up late very well, right? So I'm but that's by choice. If I wanted to train my time clock, my internal clock, to get up later and then stay up later, I could. I enjoy getting up early in the mornings. So my daily habits would be waking up early in the morning. I really relish the time to read my scriptures, will say prayers in the morning, just kind of traditional, you know, daily habits.
But those have all had an impact on your kids. They've watched that. Well, and clearly they watch you and Brad both working really hard as you're now taking down 2 old trees by yourself. 6 huge 40-year-old trees by yourself.
No. Probably 100-year-old. 35 to 40-foot trees.
Oh, 40-foot trees. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, by yourself.
Big, huge, monstrous cottonwoods.
Yeah, it was too expensive to pay somebody else to do it.
It is. Dang it.
So that's kind of eating into a lot of your time.
Actually, so I will attribute that to Brad. That's Brad's can-do attitude. Brad's like, I can do this. Let's go get, like you said, let's go get a cherry picker.
That's why he gets along with Robert.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. It's comfortable. Okay, so actually I do want it. I like that came up. It is so comfortable to be friends who think like us. But I think it's okay to sometimes realize we can find friends who don't think like us too. Yeah. And learn from them.
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes those friends are our children.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that a lot recently, because we talk a lot about that comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
And we think about it for ourselves and we teach our children that, right? But are we thinking that inside us with our own children? Are we comparing our children against each other as a parent? You know, if I'm sitting there teaching my child comparison is the thief of joy, but I'm going to compare you to your sibling.
Yeah.
Then how am I learning from what's coming out of my mouth?
Well, and how are you robbing joy from your own children?
From yourself, and from me.
From yourself.
I definitely am trying, where can I meet each one of my children where they're at? And my daughter's at the UV index. You know, I've got a son that loves pull-ups and it's like, all right, let's do that. I'm still trying to do my pull-ups. I can't do as many as I used to be able to do, but and then my children on the mission, you know, what do they need? And trying to give them that specialized, like, what do you need?
Well,
in
and
the
it's
moment?
building that. I mean, it goes back to you build the relationship and then the desire comes later because of the example that you've shown. So I think a lot of times about my daughter who, she was going through a rough time in her life and wasn't sure about her testimony and things like that. And she got to a point, I asked her because she kind of turned around. She ended up finding this amazing man that I just love. And they fit. I could never be married to him. I will say that. Like, he is perfect for her. Right.
Yeah.
And so they got through a lot. And I remember asking her, like, what made you change? And she said, I looked at your relationship. I looked at my aunts and uncles. And then I also looked at my brother who was married to this woman and had these cute kids and everything. And she said, that's what I wanted. And so I decided I needed to be the kind of person that could have that kind of a life. So, and through that whole hard time when she was having a real struggle with it wasn't just her testimony. There was a lot going on. And through that whole time, we really tried to see her and be curious about what she was feeling and not, throwing her out of the house and saying, you go figure this out on your own because you need to learn to be independent, and you need to be responsible. You need to be accountable. You need to, all these things. Instead of doing that, we brought her in.
Ooh,
and the
that.
only reason why she was able to come around was because we brought her in instead of pushing her out. Right. Even though she was tough, she was really tough during those times.
Yeah. So if I were coaching you, I would actually turn it back on you and say, how did you grow from that?
Oh my gosh. Yes, you are a good coach. You do. But yeah, I learned. I mean, clearly this was a powerful experience to me that taught me it's much more important to bring the child in than to teach them a lesson. It teaches them the lesson.
Yeah, because we learn for ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I teach push-ups on toes to women. Yeah. Because I'm like, guess what? You are strong.
Yeah.
You've been telling yourself you're weak all along. You've been coming to your knees because you're like, I do girl push-ups. There are no girl push-ups. There are no men push-ups. They're just push-ups.
Right.
Push-ups on our toes or push-ups on our knees.
Yeah.
And try one on your toes.
Yeah.
You might surprise yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and I guess I learned too that those relationships are more important than the things that people are doing. And the things that my children are doing, I have to let go of what other people think. Right?
Yeah.
So often we worry.
Which is so easier said than done.
Right? The reason why we make our kids study a lot of times, we think that we're trying to help, like for school or whatever, we think that we're just trying to help them to gain knowledge and do well in school. A lot of times it's a reflection on us.
Yeah.
If our kids get into this school or that school, then we feel good about ourselves because we got them there, Yeah,
that's the magic, Becky.
Yeah.
That is exactly why I got into life coaching. When I realized I was doing, like I said, I thought I was like, I'm so awesome.
Yeah,
and not that I was sitting around. I actually wasn't.
No,
I didn't show up as a very prideful person.
But you thought that was the right way to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like, wow, there's just so much to learn and grow. So much.
Yeah. So it's a lot more fun to be the cheerleader for your children than to be the disciplinarian.
For everyone.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I will say though, certainly we need to raise our children and we are raising and modeling. And they are, I mean, the law of the land are when our kids are 18 or younger, we are to take care of them and raise them.
Yep.
And we are to teach them.
Yeah.
But I feel like where the magic is recognizing that the reason we were given the opportunity to bear children and to teach them is so that not only can they learn, we can learn. So we're all learning.
I know, it's kind of a perfect system, isn't it?
Yeah. So we do need to discipline our children. But I think if we realize if truly we're disciplining out of love, then I feel like that discipline does become a learning experience for them and us.
Yeah. One of the best books I have ever read for parenting is called The Power of Positive Parenting. Oh. It totally changed the way that I parented, really. And at the end of every chapter, any behavior that you reinforce is going to be repeated. And so if you reinforce negative behaviors by drawing attention to them, they're going to be repeated. And so I have learned to ignore the junk behavior. Of course, if your child is doing something very harmful to somebody else or themselves, you have to step in and you have to stop that behavior from happening, because you don't want them to harm themselves or somebody else.
Well, it's like when the Holy Ghost shouts, stop now.
Yeah, exactly.
Versus the little teeny promptings that we get every single day.
So if you draw more attention to those positive things, not only does it make the person feel good and hopeful, it makes you feel good too. Anytime you give somebody a compliment or tell something nice, it helps both of you. It makes you both feel, because it puts those good feelings out into the world. And so like when my kids were younger, I would try to find anything they were doing. Well, even now, try to find anything that they're doing that is good. And I try to bring that out, like, and so now they'll tell me things that they've done, like, hey, Mom, I cleaned my room. You cleaned your room? That's great. And I don't try not to go too overboard about it, but if they're proud of it, I'm going to make sure that they know that I'm proud of them too, and that builds their confidence, because then they feel like, oh, I can do these things. I can, and they try a little something. My niece is living with us right now, and she's had kind of a tough life, and, but she's kind of coming out of her shell now, and she started school, and, she'll come up and she'll tell me about her classes, and she keeps telling me she's OCD because she's, color coding all these classes and her notes and everything like that. I'm like, you're not OCD, but I know exactly, mine too.
Should I show you my phone? My kids are color coded.
Oh yeah, mine are too.
I love
totally.
it.
I love it too. So that's it. So I get excited with her, and that excitement like gets her more excited about it, and so she continues on. But if she comes to me and she tells me that she's been doing this, and I say, oh my gosh, you need to slow down, like that's a little over the top. How's she going to feel?
Yeah.
Interesting. She's going to feel like, oh yeah, that is kind of, and then she's going to feel bad about herself that, oh, I'm doing something kind of dumb or wrong or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's how we show up, and that cheerleading kind of a spirit is what endears us to each other, but it also encourages that behavior, that positive behavior. So I'm like, just keep doing it. You're doing great. That is not OCD. I don't know why you think this is OCD. It's just like, you're very focused in on it, and that's great. Go with that passion.
Yeah. That is so cute.
It's really cute.
How old is she?
She's 22.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love color coding.
Yeah, so do I. So I was like totally impressed. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you a few rapid fire questions. So we'll see how rapid they actually are. But yeah. So what has brought you joy in the last 24 hours?
What has brought me joy? My youngest daughter, actually, it was so cute. The other day, she came home and she's like, Mom, the UV index is not very good right now. It's not good for tanning. She's very into the UV index. And my daughter, who's on a mission, is in Peru. Okay. And so my daughter that's still at home says, the UV index in Peru is, and I think she said 18. She's like, it's 18. That's the max, Mom. She's going to get burned. And she's like, that's really crazy for tanning.
Well, what is a good book that you have read recently?
Oh, Big Magic. Have you read that?
No.
I can't remember the author. Amazing.
Yeah?
It's kind of, I love it because it's kind of got the life coaching flair to it.
Okay.
So amazing about just creating big magic in our lives.
Okay.
So good.
Yeah. So it's like a self-help kind of a book.
Yeah.
Okay. I would probably really love it. I love those books.
It's by the author who also wrote, was it Eat, Pray, Love? Is that what it was?
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
What's her name? I cannot.
Gilbert.
Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Elizabeth Gilbert?
Yes.
Is that it? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, it's a totally different side to her. It's not like Eat, Pray, Love.
She has a TED Talk that I listened to once that was really good about, I remember some, but I remember hers in particular because she said it's really hard to follow up a book that does so well because it was her first book.
She says that in this book, in Big Magic, which was so fun. And she gives her, tell me what she said in the,
it's been years ago. No, it was in a TED
Talk. That's right.
TED Talk. Yeah. That, that it was really difficult for her to have a sequel to that. And where this had so much recognition, and then to have this other book maybe not be, there was a lot of expectation. Yeah. And it was hard to get over the expectation.
Okay, that's part of the fire of this next book. Of how that's why this next book is so fun. I like the way she writes because even in Eat, Pray, Love, she brought herself into it.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Similarly in Big Magic, but just more from the self-help side.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. I'm going to have to look into it.
It's good.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, what about a documentary or a TV show that you like to watch?
We watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Can't say I've seen that one.
With Lily. Yeah. So Lily's our only child home right now, so she gets a lot of attention.
And how old is she?
So she's 14, almost 15.
Okay.
Yeah. We watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine with her, and then she and I just the other day started Trolls. Okay. The one with the boy band in it. Like bands get along. Something like that. Bands. Something. Anyway, that one's really fun too. She and I will watch that, and she knows I like music, so
that's awesome.
It's got fun music in it.
That's great. And what a great activity to do with your kids.
Yeah.
Just sit down and watch a silly show together.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Trolls is good.
That's
Both
awesome.
of them.
I'm gonna have to look for that.
Yeah.
Let's see. What's a favorite vacation spot?
Favorite vacation spot? Brad and I really like Kauai.
Oh, okay.
Together. We love Kauai. A number of years ago, we also went to Costa Rica. I love that. Uh-huh. And then Brazil always has a tender spot in my heart.
Okay.
I haven't been to Brazil, though, for a long, long time, but Brad and I did go there together.
Okay. Are there any special activities that you do at any of these places that you really love?
All of them, I think that's a great question, because what makes them special to me, right? Mostly it's the time that Brad and I get to spend together, the fun we have, but then we'll go on hikes and adventures together. Mm-hmm. And so it's just getting a chance to go do that. And
are there specific hikes that you recommend?
Well, in Kauai, we've been there a few times, and we've got the Napali Coast hike. So not the one that you have to get permits for, but it's still 10 miles, and you can go back to a waterfall. Okay. We love that one. That one's it's challenging. It's not. We did actually the dermatologist friend I told you about. Yeah. We hiked Kilimanjaro with her and her husband and some of their kids. So it's nothing like that type of a challenging. Summiting some different mountains that we've summited together, but it's not.
It's not for the.
It's not a stroll.
Okay, got it.
And so probably that. I think Brad and I enjoy actually. Almost everywhere Brad and I vacation together, we'll go on.
Go on a hike. Yeah, we love hiking too. So that's awesome. Yep, we should go summit somewhere together.
Yes, right.
Got to do that.
Yes, we should.
Are there any nonprofits that you support?
Well, we like the Fabulous Five Fund. One's our favorite.
What's that one?
It's one that we started.
Oh, okay.
So it's just one that gives to, right now, it primarily gives to universities.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah. Love it. Education, support education.
Yeah.
Well, this has been really fun to
chat with you. It has. Yeah. Every moment with you, Becky, is always fun. You are fun. Aww. I feel like you're the epitome of fun.
Oh, that is really funny because I have never felt like the fun one. I've always wanted to be the fun one, but I never.
And you are.
I'm a little bit, well, okay, thank you. I will just say thank you. I won't refute it.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's really fun to talk to you too. We've always had a good connection. I've always felt like we were kindred spirits in a lot of ways. So
yes, I agree.
Appreciate that.
100%.
Yeah.
200%.
This has been a really fun conversation. And Stephanie, where can we find you? Like, where can people find you if they want to connect?
You actually have to text me.
You're not on social media?
Well, I kind of am. I am starting to grow that. So I can throw that out there.
Yeah.
And then
if they're interested in like coaching or anything like that.
Yeah, because you could DM me through that. So the coach Steph is my Instagram. Because I can help a person get stronger mentally, physically, spiritually, just kind of, I bring it into our lives as a whole.
Love it. That's awesome. Very good. And be sure and like this episode, give us a review. Yeah. You can share it with other people that you think might be helped by it. Right. And thanks for being with us on the Sunny Mom podcast. See you next time.
Thanks, Becky.
In the words of Eleanor Roosevelt, do something every day that scares you.